Joy Jennings Fulford, Jennings being my maiden name. And I'm the longest attending person at this church. And I've been here all my life.
Sure, well, I came here in 1970 and was assistant organist till 1976. I came for the job.
My name is Gail Renouf, and I've been going to St. Martin in the Fields now for, I believe, about 33 years.
My name is Bob Derenbacher. I was a summer student intern. It was during the time where I was a postulant in the diocese. And then in September 2002, I was ordained priest here at St. Martin's on Michaelmas, and it was just a lovely service. I have great memories of that beautiful service of ordination.
My name's Bonnie Dowling. I'm a student at Wycliffe College, and I'll be ordained on May 31st of 2014 this year. I've been at St. Martin in the Fields for the last year as a student, as a field placement, and I've largely been involved with the worship here at St. Martin.
So I came in 1954 to work with Gord Langlois, and I became organist in 1956.
My name is Elizabeth Jackson Hall. I've been at St. Martin's for my entire life. In fact, my parents were married in the church. So it sort of, I think, makes me a bit of a weirdo, actually, because I've never left.
My name is Bishop Michael Bedford-Jones, and I'm a retired suffragan bishop of the Diocese of Toronto. Margaret Allen had been urging me to come to St. Martin's. I took her up one Sunday and found a truly wonderful parish.
When I first started, Gail and I first started, there was no money. A treasurer in part of those days, I'm sure, had to pay one bill this week so that you wouldn't be bombarded with phone calls later in the week. You had limited funds to deal with.
My name is Ian Green, and when we moved to Toronto, we decided to look around for churches. We decided we should go to the church closest to us if it was a good church. So it turns out, of course, St. Martin's is just down the road from us. And we went to several of the services, we went to some of the events there, we thought, this is great.
Hello, I'm Father Philip Hobson. I'm incumbent here at St. Martin in the Fields, and I have been here now for, this is 18 years now.
So my mum is an immigrant who came to Canada. She decided to go to church. She was on a bus, and she'd taken the wrong bus, and the bells were tolling. And so she got off and jumped to the nearest church, and she ran up the stairs, took one look inside and thought, oh my goodness, it's Catholic. And they said, no dear, don't worry, come on in. We're High Anglican.
Phil knew of the church, and we started going there, and I felt very much at home.
I had just taken a year off from doing music for a year. Well, although I was a disc jockey at that time, but and of course at that point I had hair down to my waist, so I think they were rather shocked.
And of course Jack came in with his long red hair with a bow and so forth. And of course George and Father Jackson were very conservative.
So yeah, I wasn't quite sure because this seemed like it would be a fairly conservative place. And
when Jack started to play the organ, he said that was it. They hired him.
So, you know, they asked me to play a couple of things for them, and they hired me on the spot, so I started the next day.
We were social committee for many years. We did a lot of dinners. I think Phil and I originated the pancake supper at St. Martin's, and that was a lot of fun.
I was in the office, and Norma was there, and I said to Norma, what are those boxes on the floor? And she said, well, there are archives. Well, they're the most dilapidated 3 cardboard boxes I'd ever seen, and I was absolutely horrified. What did we do? Marion Rhodes, Edna Heino, Father Philip, Stan, and myself, and we went through piece by piece. I think I had taken the church for granted because I grew up here. It was my home. I felt comfortable, but I didn't really know a lot about it. But through the archives, I learned a lot about it. And then I looked at the church with new eyes.
Ilon was involved in creating the book for the 125th anniversary, along with Joy. I also learned a lot about the history of the church that I didn't know. And the church has a fascinating history since it started 125 years ago. And really looking at the history of St. Martin's is really looking at the history of the West End of Toronto.
As an organist has special shoes. But over the years, of course, your feet come through and all this sort of thing, which I don't care. They disappeared. And Gord Phillips, I think, was the instigator of all this. Quite a character, you know. And he went out and got them.
Was it gold?
Bronze, I guess, was it bronze? And mounted my good orange shoes on a plaque with a dedication underneath for 26 years, you know, all this stuff. I mean, here are my shoes that I've been missing for a few months. We were totally ruined, but you know, it was fine.
Healy Willan used to say that there were really the three best buildings in Toronto were St. Mary Magdalene, Grace Church on the Hill, and St. Martin in the Fields.
The music is excellent. We have a very good music program.
A good instrument and good acoustics and interesting repertoire.
Father Jay always was very supportive of the music.
Father Jackson and I were really instrumental in getting the organ redone.
And we sang from the back of the church as you do now, but that was unheard of in those days.
I think it says a lot about the congregation that they're willing to accept and don't hide behind a rigidity that, oh, well, we can't do it because it isn't traditional. There were times, for instance, the 100th anniversary where we used a giant Coca-Cola sign I have and all sorts of vacuum cleaner parts strung with videotape. And
in the 60s, I guess, we had a group here called the Creeps. Now, the Creeps were a rock and roll group. One Sunday a month in the evening, they would have a rock mass here. It was so new in those days that we were on the CBC, and I still remember a letter from an irate person, I guess from Victoria, thinking how abominable this was, that this would happen in the church. Well, we packed the church, Joy? We did it for 4 or 5 years, you know.
Of course, this parish has a tradition of priests staying quite some time. Father Glenn, who was before me, was here for close to 16 years. And of course, Father Jackson, who was before that, was 25 years.
And then Father Jackson was such a dear. And his memoirs is fantastic. His Irish humor comes through.
Then, of course, Father Jackson came on very shortly after. Well, he was amazing. And he was here for a long, long until 1980.
Knew and respected very highly Archdeacon Jim Jackson, his wife Ivy.
The beautiful garden you have up front, yes. That was his thing, you know.
Because Father Jackson did all the gardening, and if his office needed painted, he painted.
Camp Artaban was very much a part of Father Jackson's interests. And I was a counselor up there at Camp Artaban. If you happened to look out to see what was happening at 5 o'clock in the morning, you'd often see Father Jackson cleaning out the kibos. And he was the director of the camp. And well, why, you know, you're the director, well, I wouldn't ask anybody to do that, you know. So he do it himself, you know.
Well, then there was Father Glenn, was such a charming, such a caring man. And if you weren't in church for maybe, you know, one Sunday or two, he was always on the phone. Are you all right? Are you feeling okay? And tremendous sense of humor.
Father Glenn and I would look at each other when Walter and Father Buckner would have these long arguments over which hymns we should do and why this was, you know, sacrilege or, you know, not really.
He was a good preacher. He was quite theatrical, and he'd always have that little line at the end that would make you think.
I think Father Glenn was probably also good at reaching out as well and sort of updating things.
Glenn was a vodka drinker, and John Logan and I were wardens at the time, and we threatened him several times that we were going to fill his water glass in the pulpit with vodka. Now, we never did, but we scared him enough that you could see that every time he went to preach, he would smell the water, make sure it wasn't full of vodka.
Father Philip has done so much for our church.
Well, Father Philip is in many ways a saintly person. He gives so much of himself. I don't know how he does it.
I think Father Philip is a little more conservative, and
Father Philip was just a great mentor and a great teacher. And he continues to inspire me and continues to be a great friend.
a very, very, very fine man and a very dedicated priest.
I think that the church needs to reach out to the rest of the community, to be inviting, to provide opportunities for children in the communities for church school and other youth activities. I really think the possibilities are limitless.
The Sunday liturgy is the core of who we are at St. Martin's, I think.
I think St. Martin's, like other parishes, needs to continually find ways of telling the story of Christ, of making him known in ways that make sense to people.
So things like outreach are really important as really integral to the faith, the identity of the parish, that we are an outward-focused parish, that we see ourselves as part of this much wider enterprise that is God's mission in the world.
The difficulty I see, that my sister and I will sit down and talk about this, is how do you keep the children in? Much of the rest of the model works, right?
You go there on a Sunday and look at the congregation, and the chances are there's going to be priests in the congregation. And they come to our parish because of the consistency of our liturgy.
I'm Victoria Matthews, Bishop of Christ Church, New Zealand. Whenever I get to Toronto, this is my parish. And why do I come here when I could go on a free Sunday anywhere? I come because of the liturgy, the proclamation of the word, and the music.
Here we are coming up to our 125th year. Isn't that wonderful?
So the anniversary year to me has been a learning experience. It's been a lot of fun. Just made us feel all very optimistic about the future.
This is such a great community to share in, a community full of people committed to doing things around the parish, which makes a huge difference.
St. Martin's is a very successful parish. Trying to make it go into the future is the question. How do we keep it rolling?
You know, financially, we're quite well off now compared with many churches. And part of the reason we do well is that we've drawn people into the church. We have a larger congregation than we had before. We have a lot of very active volunteers.
The congregation and the community here is so gracious and welcoming and friendly, and it's a really fabulous place to have been, so I'm very grateful.
I am truly grateful for the 3 years St. Martin's gave me and for the enormous number of friends I've made here. And one of the nicest things that happened when I came here today to preach at the 125th anniversary is how many people said, "Welcome home."
Are you ready for the coffee, Gail? Are you ready?
Well, go and have a look. If the light's out, the coffee's finished.
The lights are out.
You know
What's
the
the
little
lights
red.
out?
If the red light is out, the coffee's finished.
You got a little Grand Marnier in your coffee?
Yeah, sure.
So, what's the question again?
Oh, gee, okay, where do I start? I'm gonna just hold on. Okay, actually, let me just try and get them to come over.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That you can put on tape.